So one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about today was the use of background images that came from someone else, stock. So and we're kind of looking at some of the pictures that I've done with stock. So this is going to be one of them that was actually done with as a stock image. The background is a stock image. The two people in front are mine that I did in the studio. That same stock image I used here, but they completely else wiped it out. Same model for this. Don't mind the little two white marks on it. But it all came from this pre-made stock from this person here, Shinobiku. And basically, when you're doing something like this, you can kind of see what all you need to think about what the picture is going to look like first. And the cool part about Deviant art is that there's a ton of stock pictures across all the genres. Usually I just want a different kind of background. But for some people, maybe we want a cute kitty or we want some feathers or a cute butterfly or other cute kitties and other things. So these are all kind of the stock images that go along with it. But one of the things to be really aware of when they do the stock images on these things is that you want to check and see what their rights are. So this one is just please remember to note me and like the stock you've used. I like seeing how my stock is used. So this one's pretty clean. They don't really care how it's used. They just want to see what you've done with it, and it's pretty standard. There are others that just say that it's unrestricted, or that, if you use it, place my icon in the description of your work, read the fact, then comment on my main account. So you kind of have to go back and do a little bit of hunting around and all the rest of it. And then there's other people that, just credit it, and then there you go. You're pretty much so good to go with that. And then there's others that you really want to check out and see what's called unrestricted stock. When it's unrestricted stock, you can use it. It's okay to use it for prints and commercial purposes in and outside of DeviantArt. You don't have to ask me. You can just go ahead and do it. And then we can just click on the download button. I'm a big fan of unrestricted stock. So we just want to go ahead and save that off because I want to work with this here in a little bit just to kind of do other things with it. And then we can go through, if we actually do a search on unrestricted stock, and see a lot of other things that we can actually do stuff with as we kind of go through what kind of background images I want. If you go back and take a look at stock, there's like 4 million, but on the unrestricted stock, things you can do anything you want to do with, 40,000 of them are unrestricted. And that unrestricted makes a big difference to people, especially if you're going to use this for a commercial purpose. So like when I did this, I know that the model is going to sell the picture, and I want to make sure that the person who did the background gets all the right credit and everything else. The other thing that's kind of interesting too is seeing where all that background ended up. So this background is all over the map. It's not just a stock background in DeviantArt. It's a stock background on a lot of other people that have done this across the DeviantArt platform in terms of how they work and what was done. So there's a lot of people that worked within DeviantArt and used that background on the rest of it and kind of shared it around, but also ended up on some other backgrounds, places that didn't just stick on DeviantArt. It ended up all over the map, and that's something that you kind of want to make sure of is what did other people do and how did that end up being transmitted across the internet, because you may need that, especially if they want to claim something later on that, well, you used my stock without permission or you didn't follow the rules. That you can actually go back and kind of see what other people did, so you've got a history on that background image. And then you can kind of see in a Google image search, that a lot of people have used this background image because it's actually really quite handy in terms of being able to do neat stuff, and you kind of have how other people interpreted it, what we put in it. So there are lots of people that did the white background and other things to kind of make this neat in terms of how that background image was used. But you do want to make sure that you're following their rules, right? So if they just want credit, then you need to make sure that you credit them. If they just want, go ahead and use it, I don't care, do whatever you want to do with it, then have some fun with it. The other thing that you kind of want to make sure of too, when you get the stock image in, and I bring up Photoshop and kind of drop this in here, is you want to check the image and you want to check the image size. I usually work in 300 DPI. So if it's, some of them are 72, some of them are 96, so it looks like it was screen capped. Others come in at a pretty decent rate. The size is actually way too small for me. So I'm going to recast this and bring it up to 300 DPI because that's what I need to work with, right? Usually I try to keep everything within the 5,000 range. So 17 by 5, it's a square format. So I'm going to do some tweaking when I actually get it in there and then save it off so that it suits my needs, and then I can turn around and do it later. So the resize and the re-imaging on this really wasn't all that bad. It was fairly easy to do. You just got to pay attention to the rules and how and what kind of stock art you're pulling down from Deviant art. You want to make sure that you are following their rules, and you may just want to go into unrestricted stock. Lots easier. You still have to give them credit and everything else. There's some really cool backgrounds. There's people that are sharing information about unrestricted stock. Since I tend to do a lot of fantasy photography, as you can tell from this, it just kind of is part of that process. In terms of, I don't draw, I take pictures, and having a pre-made stock like this actually really kind of helps me out. Hopefully that was helpful to you. Give me a shout if you need to know something else.